everybody, and welcome to day 24. We are almost there, almost to the halfway mark, almost halfway mark. On this day 24, I want to talk about something that I believe it is something that we say to ourselves personally a lot. Like we say it a lot, and because I've noticed like it's just something that has popped up all too often in this time in my life where I've said repeatedly, time and time again, no matter what I do, it's not enough. It's almost as if we believe that everything that we do, whether it's for people or for our children or whatever, we feel somehow, some way that it should be a reward system. That we believe that when we do something and then something bad happens, and then to us we're saying, no matter what I do, it's never enough. We often hear this a lot in relationships, and even relationships with our children, relationships with a mate. We've said it time and time again, no matter what I do, it's not enough. I'm going to tell you something that this is not even going to be able to be a what if, other than what if it is enough. Like what if that all that you've done, whatever the situation is, what was enough? It just did not turn out the way in which you were hoping it would turn out to be. We just grow in this thing where we believe. Like, I'll give you a perfect good example. It's no secret I take care of my elderly mother. I've been doing it for 18 years. But sometimes I get to a point in my life and say, well, when is it going to be enough? Like, I think a small part of me is saying, okay, well, since I've given up this portion of my life and I've made this sacrifice, and we've talked about sacrifices very early on in these days. We define sacrifice, so I can safely say that this was a sacrifice. When you take what's been given up and then you say to yourself, like, you're looking for this reward system. So then for me, I'm sitting back saying, when is it going to be enough? So what sometimes you have a tendency to do is you have a tendency sometimes to be blindsided by the positives that are happening, where it is enough. It's just not getting the results in which you hope was going to happen. So it's on this day 23, I say to you, it is enough. Most of us, without a doubt, give 10,000% to whatever it is we're working on, whatever it is we're doing for someone, whether it's work, a relative, a friend. You might not like the result, but I believe without a doubt that you do give 10,000% into that which you're doing. And you just have to believe going into we're now in 2019, and I'm going to believe in me about to turn 50, that I am doing what I'm doing is enough. I don't need to utilize that in my vocabulary just because something is not turning out in a way in which I was hoping for. I just have to understand that every situation that I'm faced with, I'm doing the best I can, and that it is enough. I think we always use that term for when it doesn't turn out to be what we hoped it would be, if that makes any sense to you. Like for instance, this is the first thing that pops in my head. Men and women get into relationships. Some of us, not all of us, get into these relationships with people with the hopes of marriage. So as we go along, I always say that relationships reach a fork in the road. The relationships start off in a path, and you each are giving, working on that journey, working towards what you're working towards. And then at some point, there's a fork that comes. One of you go right and the other one goes left. And what ends up happening is that you're sitting on the right-hand lane waiting for him to come over and propose to you in the right-hand lane while he's in the left-hand lane. So when that happens, what's going on in your head while you're over here is you're saying to yourself, why isn't it enough? Like, what is it? Why isn't he doing it? And you seek out these answers when all you've been doing is actually giving the same that you did 24 hours before that fork in the road approached you. But because you're not getting the result in which you were hoping for, the result in which you were looking for, you start giving self-doubt. You start doubting yourself. You start saying to yourself, why is it not enough? Why is what I'm doing not enough? When in reality, it is. It's almost a situation of it's not you, it's them. We have to understand that, especially when we're dealing with our loved ones and so forth, we are giving enough. And we have to stop with the self-doubt and saying that because the result is not ending out what we want, we start questioning us. Like, I've seen situations where I don't know if some of my females out there that are watching this or are going to laugh at what I'm saying. I've seen situations where, and it's so funny because with my current boyfriend, he's getting the slack too. It's like, you ever have someone, like, you start dating someone and they come out of the woodwork and they start questioning you, and one of the things they say, well, what didn't I do? Wasn't I enough? Wasn't I enough? You know, it's that type of situation, because I've done it. Before I was with Justin, I turned around and there was men that I was interested in, and you know, it just never went anywhere. But then you see them on social media, seem happy in relationships. And the first thing we do, men and women, the first thing we do is we question, well, wasn't I enough? Like, what is it? But it's just a matter of, you have to understand that, yes, you were enough, but it just wasn't the fit for you. And it even goes for jobs. It goes for anything that you're approaching in your life. You have to understand that the path in which you're going, it's not that you're not enough. It's just not for you at that moment, as bad as maybe you wanted it to be. I tell you, it's so funny. The relationship thing is what pops up in my head, because when I started Love Life Wednesday, that's how I started Love Life Wednesday, was because I was seeking out love, right? And I couldn't understand why people around me seemed to be in these successful relationships, seemed to be happy and in love. And I'm like, and it was people that I was seeing that, you know, like, I went out with, but it never went nowhere. And then next thing you know, like, they're married. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, wasn't I enough? But you know, it's almost like you could sometimes use it as an educational tool too. You know, it's, instead of beating the person up, why don't you just ask them? You know, I never really had the guts to, like, reach out to these people that are now in relationships and say, okay, well, what is it that, you know, that I didn't have, or what was I doing, you know, and so forth, you know, and sometimes it's nothing. It's just, you know, the fit was not there, or you know, it just wasn't there. So it's not that you were personally inadequate. It just didn't fit for whatever it is. So I'm saying to you, don't ever feel like you're not enough. You are definitely enough. It's just not enough for that. You know what I mean? Like, so you have to believe within yourself you are enough, point blank. And, you know, chuck it up as it's their loss. You know, even if it's a relationship, if it's a new job or something and you didn't get chosen for that, it's their loss. You are enough. You are more than enough. So it just makes me laugh when I sat back, because I had to think about this, and I said to myself, man, I can't even tell you how many times we've said that. I can't even tell you how many times we've looked at situations and said, damn, wasn't I enough? Like, you know, and you are. You are definitely enough. And I'm so glad, like, now that I see my situation now, I'm so glad that all of those in my past felt I wasn't enough. You know, because now I see what I have now, and it's definitely enough. You know, so make sure you always feel that, no matter what disappointments come your way, no matter what challenges come your way, no matter what you may feel is a fit and it doesn't work out, don't ever feel like you just are not enough. You know, taking care of someone and their responsibility, their life in your hands, like a child is your responsibility and it's in your hands. I have to understand that this is a big you know, job to fill when you are, faced with the situation of somebody else's life being in your hands. So it's interesting how I'm adequate for that. I am enough for that. And I just have to understand the positiveness of that, as much as sometimes I get irritated, I'm mad, I'm pissed off, I just want to be alone. Like, and I struggle with that. Like, I struggle with just the fact of just wanting to be alone. Zero. But I understand that my purpose is greater, my job is greater. And who am I to question when he has said, you are enough to do this job? I'm giving it to you. You may not like it, but I feel that you're adequate enough for it. So I always say, like, just to get a little biblical on you, we hear this all the time and time again. God doesn't give you anything that he doesn't believe you can handle. There's a lot of truth to that, because you have to understand something. Before God gives you something, he has to interview you for that process. He has to feel that you are adequate, you are enough to handle the challenges of which you're about to be faced. So if he says to you, I believe you can handle it, understand that you just went through one of the world's best job interviews. Because you have to understand, when you were not given this but given that, it's because he thought about it, released his grace, and said, I believe this is for you. You are enough for this. It is extremely powerful to understand that even though you are faced with something that you feel you wanted, and then you turn around and say, oh, why wasn't I enough? You were enough. It just wasn't enough for that, because that's not what you were supposed to be doing. So understand that your purpose is always that you are enough, and that you are never, from this day forward, ever to question why something didn't happen and look at yourself and say you weren't enough, because you are enough. You are always enough. It's just that situation just wasn't for you. All right, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you.